This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. That certainly rings true tonight as the Brewers' 11-game win streak comes to a screeching halt with the 1-0 loss to the Mariners in Seattle off of one swing of the bat. Lots to get into tonight. Logan Gilbert on the other side of the mound against the Brewers was fantastic. As I'd mentioned before, the win streak is officially over. However, the race for the National League Central is officially on. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me over on X at Brandon_Snide and follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get audio podcast forms, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as over on YouTube. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that thumbs up button, get notified when we go live. As always, throughout the entirety of the program this evening, your thoughts, your reactions. I have gotten used to saying your celebrations, but we can't talk about celebrations tonight, although the Brewers did climb out of that hole that we had talked about and now are in the race for the National League Central with the Cubs. But your thoughts, your reactions, your opinions are always welcomed on to the program. We'll get to all of them as the show goes on. I have lots of thoughts as the Brewers do fall to the Mariners, as mentioned before, by a final of 1-0, 60-41 now on the season. They now fall to 27-24 on the road. The scoring summary tonight brought to you by our wonderful partners over at FanDuel. 1-0 game, guys. Without further ado, the turning point in the Brewers' 1-0 loss.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Thought this was an interesting substitution for Pat Murphy, removing DL Hall from the game and inserting Nick Mears. And I know Nick Mears has been fantastic. You know, he had his lumps earlier in June and some in May, and has kind of worked himself out of that. I thought DL Hall tonight was humming. I haven't even mentioned that Jacob Misiorowski for the Brewers also getting the start, but I'm going to get to Misiorowski here in a minute, so don't worry, we'll get to the start from Miz tonight. But I thought that was an interesting point in this game, and it's obviously the turning point in your scoring summary because it's the only run of the game, a solo home run off the bat of the big dumper, Cal Riley, who now leads the league in home runs, 391 feet to right field. That made it 1-0, and that was really all that was needed, for the Mariners. And as the Brewers and Seattle in a little bit of a pitcher's duel this evening in Seattle, a 1-0 loss. I want to get to Misiorowski and Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert for the Mariners, absolutely fantastic. And, again, kind of the rule of thumb, guys, on this program, whether you play for the Brewers or not, if you go more than 6 innings and you have double-digit strikeouts and you get the win, whether you're a Brewer or not, unfortunately, we got to do it.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Thick performance tonight from both pitchers, so let's start there. Let's start right there. Let's start with Jacob Misiorowski. 3 2/3 innings pitched for Misiorowski, 64 total pitches thrown. He allowed 3 hits, but he struck out 7 batters. And I got into a little bit of I wouldn't say argument or a duel on social media, but I put on my X account at Brandon_Snide that I absolutely loved the emotion, the passion that Jacob Misiorowski brings on the mound. I don't care if it's the first inning or the 9th inning. When he gets fired up, I absolutely get fired up. And I know that feeds off of the veterans in the clubhouse because the veterans themselves have talked about it. Manager Pat Murphy has talked about it. That feeds off of the other players in the clubhouse. And I loved the performance tonight from Jacob Misiorowski. On the other side, Logan Gilbert was equally or more impressive tonight. 6 1/3 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, just 2 hits for the Brewers this evening. That's exactly what they would end the game with. So Logan Gilbert, I mentioned it last night when the Brewers won 6-0. I kind of prepped everybody And I said, get ready for a lot of strikeouts, 17 strikeouts between Jacob Misiorowski and Logan Gilbert today as he gets the win this evening, his third win of the year as the Mariners beat the Brewers 1-0. Back to the Misiorowski debate. I did put it on my social media account as well. And I understand where the Brewers are coming from. Coming into tonight's game, Misiorowski has pitched so far 89 innings. So now he'll be up to, do the quick math, 92 2/3. In comparison, last year he tossed a total of 97. So obviously the Brewers are keeping an eye on that. They're playing it safe. We talked about when Woody got the start last night and in preparation for Misiorowski getting the start this evening, that manager Pat Murphy had said they're going to kind of play it, ease into it and not push the limits on either one of those guys. And I understand where the innings are coming from Misiorowski. It's just when you have that matchup, right? And it was a great pitching matchup and defensive matchup with Misiorowski and Logan Gilbert. I would have loved to see Misiorowski go a little bit longer, even if he just finishes that fourth inning. But I don't think that was the deciding factor in this game. So that's why I'm not caught up on that point. But nonetheless, a fantastic performance from both pitchers this evening. Logan Gilbert getting the Locked On Brewers post-game player of the game. And again, back to Pat Murphy, we had talked about this team on this 11-game hit streak or win streak, and a lot of good things happening for this Brewers offensively, defensively, out of the bullpen, pitching, starting pitching. Everything's kind of been fantastic. Murph had an interesting quote last night when asked about the 11-game win streak and how great things have been going and whatnot. And his response, literally verbatim, was it's July 21st. And that spoke to me in a different way, reading that, catching up on things that he said after the game last night. And you go back to April and you go back to really end of March and into April and May. And when the Brewers were struggling, he was never too low, right? And I think that's been a good thing for this team going forward. And the debate with Misiorowski and Woodruff and pushing those innings and whatnot, it is the reality is this is going to happen. This is bound to happen. The Brewers were going to eventually, unfortunately, come on the losing side of a game, although it felt like at times they were never going to lose, but it was going to happen. And I thought the steady voice last night from manager Pat Murphy definitely caught my attention. And obviously, I think that resonates within that clubhouse because it's still a long part of the season. The streak may be over, but the National League Central race is most certainly on for the Milwaukee Brewers. They are now currently 4-1 on this road trip. They still have an opportunity. I know everybody's a little sad and upset. We're not going to get those free burgers from George Webb. The win streak comes to an end. It ends at 11. But there are still a lot of good things going on with this Milwaukee Brewers team, right? Jackson Chourio extending, one of the only two players to get a hit in tonight's ball game, extends his hit streak to 16 games. And Christian Yelich, the other guy who got a base knock for the Brew Crew, extends his 28-game on-base streak. So good things still happening with this team. Obviously, you'd have liked to come on the winning side, but I thought, again, Misiorowski was fantastic. I thought DL Hall continues to look absolutely fantastic. 2.16 ERA so far for DL Hall, who has been fantastic. Nick Mears, unfortunately, catches the loss in tonight's game because of that solo home run surrendered to Cal Riley. And Jared Kanian and Abner Uribe also making an appearance out of the bullpen. Abner Uribe quietly, I shouldn't say quietly because we've seen a lot of Abner, and tied for the league in games pitched. So something to also keep an eye on as we head into the trade deadline, as we have the debate amongst Brewers fans of who the Brewers could target. Abner Uribe has pitched a lot for the Brewers, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle him as well as those guys we had talked about before with Brandon Woodruff and Jacob Misiorowski. The Brewers, unfortunately, do take the loss this evening, 1-0 to the Mariners in Seattle in Game 2 of their 3-game series, 60-41 on the season, back tied atop the NL Central as the Cubs also unfortunately get the win this evening. The Brewers will look for the series win tomorrow afternoon. Your thoughts, your reactions, all of you lined up on the program. We'll get to all of it and things you'll be talking about tomorrow on the Locked On Brewers postcast. Today's Postcast show is brought to you by our terrific partners over at FanDuel. Summer sports in full swing, whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following all the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned over there at Bradford Beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even the regular season game feel like must-watch events. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 tonight, and you get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Open that FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, guys, if your first $5 bet hits, you get $150 in bonus bets. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. Tough one for the Brew Crew as they fall to the Mariners 1-2 out there in Seattle. The difference in this one, Cal Raleigh, league-leading home run hitter as of right now. The difference in the ball game, a solo shot in the sixth inning off of Nick Mears would prove to be the difference as the 11-game hit streak unfortunately comes to an end for Milwaukee. As Landon, every day we begin with our YouTube subscribers. No, I wanted a burger. We all wanted a burger. Absolutely. As every day. Or Nick says, no free burgers. Can I revise my statement in getting a clutch bat? I understand. I understand that's going to be another conversation piece. I'm sure I'm going to hear about it amongst the viewers and listeners and social media friends. But I think this team is still in a really good position. They've put themselves in that position because of what they've been able to create offensively, defensively, pitching, their bullpen. So there's still a lot of good things for this Milwaukee Brewers team going on, even with the tough loss this evening. Jordan over on YouTube, some terrible calls at the end. Yeah, Ryan Blakeney behind the dish. I don't know what was going on in the ninth inning. I thought his zone throughout the course of this game was a little bit wild. It was definitely not necessarily, but it was consistent, I think, for the most part. It was kind of all over the map. And then that ninth inning, that Isaac Collins at bat, I think he probably realistically, and we'll see the call sheet come out later on this evening or early tomorrow morning. Isaac Collins probably saw 6 pitches that should have been balls. Like, he should have been on base. It was a very, very frustrating way for the Brewers to end. Isaac Collins had some words for Blakeney behind the plate. Pat Murphy had some words for Blakeney, who was also behind the plate. So again, definitely a frustrating way to end it, as the Brewers did have a runner in scoring position with a William Contreras leadoff walk and Blake Perkins getting the pinch running for him. So some frustrating, way to end, but the Brewers had chances throughout the course of this game too to put up runs. 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and they left 6 guys on base. So the Brewers had opportunities, just couldn't cash in throughout the course of the game. As Harley over on YouTube, we need another bat in this lineup. It's too difficult to rely on getting 3 hits each inning to score runs. If the price for Suarez is too steep, Ryan McMahon would be a good consolation price. Completely agree with that. And Suarez is on an absolute tear right now. So, and obviously he's going to be a rental for whatever team, that makes it a trade, or if Arizona is willing to do that at that time, come trade deadline, which is a week and a half, a little over a week and a half, a little under a week and a half, something like that. But I think that I think both of those players would be intriguing in Milwaukee. It's all about cost for me. And I've talked to Jeff Levering. I've talked to Lane Grindle. I've talked to people that are in the clubhouse. The one thing that everybody's kind of on their edge of the seat right now is you don't want to fix what's not broken, right? And offensively speaking, I know the boppers are not in the lineup. The home run hitters aren't producing, long balls, and William Contreras and Jackson Chourio and Christian Yelich. But guys, they quietly have one of the best offenses in baseball, and it's not just a small sample size. You go all the way back to the beginning of June. They have the best offense overall in baseball. So they're still getting the job done. It's just not what we've grown accustomed to. And you got to go back to how many Brewers teams have we watched? I know I certainly have, where it was kind of the home run or bust. And that's not the case right now with the way this team is currently set up. And I understand the desire for a bat, and I would be all about getting a bat, in this lineup. I think Matt Arnold has a really tough job. And he's competing with the Cubs who are out looking for somebody, the Yankees who are always out looking for somebody. Seattle, the team we're playing this week, is currently looking to add offense to their team as well. So there's a lot of competition, but I will say this. I think the Brewers have the most to offer other teams that, may be looking for controllable arms. We have I might not even be able to sit here to rattle off all the pitchers that the Brewers have either up in the major leagues right now, who have been up in the major leagues, or back down in Nashville, or on the current roster we haven't seen. So it's going to be interesting. The Brewers definitely have the ammo to make a deal happen. It's just how much are they willing to do, and are they willing to do something that, jeopardizes maybe the chemistry that's currently brewing currently for this Brewers team, who are now 19 games over 500. As Steven, I knew it was coming. It's now time for Eugenio Suarez. In the immortal words of our scouting director, power is king. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about going out and getting Suarez. If the price is right, I know there was some backlash on social media because an outlet wanted to trade Freddie Peralta straight out for Suarez, and I think that would be a mistake. So again, it's going to be, for me, a cost for a guy like Suarez, who is going to be a rental. But I don't think, because of the way he's performed so far in the first little over half of the season, I think he's second now. I think Riley retook the lead for home runs. But I don't know. It's an interesting cost for him, because usually for a rental, it's not going to cost a ton. But the performance from him the first 3-4 months of the season have been out of this world. So it's definitely going to be interesting. And I'm curious what that deal looks like. I'm talking to some people in the media in Arizona, in Phoenix. They're not even sure. They are fielding calls, but the word was received from them was that they're not even sure, because of they're not completely out of it. Are they really willing to make that deal? You would think they would, because they're probably more than likely going to lose him in the off season, but there has been chatter and debate whether Arizona is willing to actually ship him off and completely sell out. So it's definitely going to be interesting going forward as we get into the trade deadline. Greg, every day are over on YouTube. 9th inning balls and strikes. Did the home plate umpire have somewhere to be? Yeah, again, it was very, very weird. And I thought his strike zone, again, was strange all night, but it did feel different, certainly at that Isaac Collins at bat, because there was a couple pitches where one was a ball, then the next one was in almost the same location, called a strike. So it was definitely very, very questionable. Isaac Collins, who's pretty even keeled throughout most of, we've seen of him, was not happy after that at bat. So it was interesting for this Brewers team as they lose 1-0 to Seattle. And believe it or not, the last shutout for this Brewers team, the last shutout loss, happened in almost the exact same way. A solo home run from Manny Machado, and they would lose to San Diego all the way back on June 8th. And then after June 8th, guys, you know what happened. This team kind of just started to turn things on. Nate, over on YouTube, that was a fun winning streak. Let's keep the pace going and sweep the Cubs in a week at home. I think that's the thing I want to get into before we end the program this evening. The things you'll be talking about tomorrow in a 1-0 Brewers loss.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Comment there from Nate. I appreciate all of your guys' comments. Remember, if you're not subscribed to the Locked On Brewers YouTube, please do so. Hit that thumbs up button. I understand, it was bound to happen, guys. We were eventually going to lose. This game was eventually going, a game was going to go in the wrong direction for us. And tonight, it kind of seemed that way. Logan Gilbert was fantastic. You tip your cap off. He gets the player of the game. Now it's 6 1/3, 10 strikeouts. But this is just beginning for the Milwaukee Brewers. The win streak may be over. Unfortunately, it's been a blast, but this is just beginning for our team. This summer is not. We are now in a heated race with the Chicago Cubs atop the National League Central. All the hard work to climb up from where we were just a few weeks ago, 4 or 5 games behind Chicago. We are now neck and neck with the Cubs and things. And now it's going to start getting interesting. And now you're going to have a series against Chicago at American Family Field. You're going to go in August and play 19 games and 18 games, including a handful of them at Wrigley Field. So this is where, again, celebrate the win streak. It was fun. It was a blast. We saw a lot of good things. It was tremendous. They look like a team that's going to compete in October and possibly make a deep run in October. will this win streak, enhance their trade, deadline aspirations? We'll see in a couple of days. But the real race is now just beginning. I know we all wanted the free burgers, and I'm guilty of that as well. But everything for the Milwaukee Brewers is still in front of them. We can be upset about the loss. We can, gripe about the home plate umpire, and I'm completely about all of that. But I do think that everything for this Milwaukee Brewers team is finally in front of them, and they're out of that proverbial hole that we had mentioned all really spring long and April and May, and have climbed out of it and become the team that we all thought they would be from the get-go. D-Dubs, part of our everydayers over on YouTube. Fun winning streak. Sad it ended. Siegler is your DH and got the third out in the fifth, bunting with a runner in scoring position. That was really, really bad. Yeah, that was another one that I had a discussion with out on social media at my X account. I did not understand that. Now, he was close, Siegler. That was half a step from being safe, but I don't necessarily understand that decision right there. It was definitely a head scratcher for sure. Over on YouTube, Photo GR says too many teams want Suarez. Arizona is going to charge a lot, at least 3 top prospects. And that's the fear that I have with Suarez because of the tear he's on offensively. You're going to get a handful of teams. And if you get New York involved, who knows what they're going to be willing to pay to just compete and add another star to their lineup. So once you get into that, I don't know if it's going to involve top prospects. I would anticipate that they're going to want at least a controllable arm going forward. Arizona, that is, especially given the Corbin Burns injury. But I don't know. The thing is, I don't know what the cost necessarily is going to be right this second. And I feel like it's going up as he continues to hit home runs and continues to produce gaudy numbers. But now you're including multiple different teams. And I think that's where the bidding war is going to come in. And I think that's where the Brewers are going to probably back themselves out of, because I don't think they're going to be willing to part with guys, whether it be in Biloxi or, Nashville and guys that they're, going to be, willing to, obviously depend on going forward. And that's how this team operates. And they've been successful at it. There's a handful of them down here right now that are making a big difference for this team, including the guy that got the start tonight for the Brewers in Jacob Misiorowski. Tough one for the Brewers this evening, a 1-0 loss to the Mariners, 60-41 on the season. That'll do it for tonight's program. We'll pick things up tomorrow after Game 3 out there in Seattle. Hopefully the Brewers can get a bounce-back victory and a series victory and end this road trip on a positive side. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in. Thank you for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as over on YouTube. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, and hit that subscribe button. Get notified when we go live. We'll pick things back up tomorrow. As I mentioned, my name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X at Brandon_Snide. And like I always say, it's been really fun for the last 11 games, but win, lose, or draw. Tonight's a tough one for the Brewers, a 1-0 loss. But despite all of that, win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Talk to you tomorrow, everyone. Have a good one. Thank you.